These days, people's attention span is fried. People can't really focus on one thing for an extended period of time. And it's not like it's your fault if you find yourself in this category. It's because of the times we find ourselves in. Back in the day, all parents or all people ever thought about was go to work, come back from work, turn on the TV, watch the news, watch a few soap opera or a few series, and then they go to sleep. And so it's easier back then to focus on your work 100%. It's easier back then to look at the person standing in front of you and give them your undivided attention when they're talking with you or to you. As opposed to the times we live in right now where we have smartphones, okay? You see people at dinner tables on a family Thanksgiving, a family gathering, rather than sit around the table, eat and talk and catch up on old times, they prefer to bury their heads on their phone and look at God knows what. And even when they are working, they're either schooling with the little time that they have, but basically doing things that makes them not focus on what they should be focusing on at the time. And the downside of actually doing this is this. When you spend a lot of your time on your phone or you spend a lot of your time finding it hard to focus or have attention that you should have on things you should have attention on, your mind will always wander. Your mind will be going from place to place every single time. And as you know, the mind has about 600 thoughts every 60 seconds. Like for every minute that goes by, you have 600 thoughts going through your mind. So it becomes difficult, per se, to intentionally focus on the things that you want to out of life. And why this is dangerous is when you are unconsciously thinking about the things you don't want out of life because you cannot focus, that is what you're going to get. I'll give you an instance. If you're constantly thinking about, let's say you want to make $1 million, if you're constantly worried about how difficult it is to make $1 million, and that is what you allow to creep into your thoughts or your mind, over time it will begin to affect the actions you take to make that $1 million because you will either work shabbishly or you won't even work at all to get to that goal. As opposed to when you control your mind, you can actually control your mind when you manage your mind to only think about the things you permit it to think about. And in this case, you're thinking about what life, you're visualizing what life is going to be if you have that $1 million in your pocket. That way, when you go into work to get that $1 million, you're now working with more excitement, you're working with more happiness, you're working with more vigor, right? And when you learn to think that way and align that way of thinking with your way of work automatically, in no time, what you want out of life will be manifested to you. So the idea is for you to be able to focus your mind. A couple of things you can do like meditation, journaling, working out, walking in nature. But practically speaking, for you to be able to flip the switch and focus on the things that you want to focus on and intentionally create the reality you want out of life, then you need um, to know exactly what you're thinking about. Don't let your mind just run because if it runs like that, it becomes dangerous because it will always, by default, think about evil and negative things, and that is what your life is going to be filled with. But if you do not want that, you want to start intentionally letting your mind think about the things you want to think about. So whenever a negative thought comes up in your mind, all you have to do is anchor it, like switch it, flip the switch, and turn it into the positive thing you want out of life. Let's say, for instance, you just went through a breakup. Rather than think about how it's difficult to live without the other person, you won't start thinking about how leaving that person or how that person leaving you, making you single, is an opportunity for you to rebuild yourself and find the right one that is for you. Okay? So the earlier you start thinking intentionally about the things you want out of life, the easier it is to act on the things you need to act on to get those things you want out of life. And when you put in the right actions over time, it might take a while, but over time, you bring to life those things that you're constantly thinking in your head.